Acquire, how to set up and play. First thing you'll do is lay out the game board, take all of the tiles, shuffle them completely, and place them face down in the playing area. Next, you'll put out all of the corporation markers and stock certificates for each company. I've grouped these into the 3 tiers of how the companies are valued. The game comes with a stock chart that tells you based on which corporation it is and how many tiles are in the corporation, what the current price is to buy a share in that company. It also tells you that when that company is acquired, what the majority shareholder will earn as a bonus, as well as a minority shareholder. You'll always see the majority bonus is 10 times the current price, while the minority bonus is always 5 times the current price. And all the items, all the values in the game are multiples of 100. So it's your option to use this, but instead of using this, I reduce all the values by 100 and remove that from the game, and I use this great player aid that has all of the corporations, and you can track how many tiles are in the corporation, and based on the tiles, what the current price is to buy a stock certificate in the company. And it also reminds you whenever you pay out the majority bonus or the minority bonus, it's always 10 times the current price of the stock for the majority bonus and 5 times the current price for the minority bonus. So this is an alternate way instead of using the chart, and I find it makes the game easier to play. And since I've reduced all the values by 100, instead of giving each player 6,000, I've given them $60, and I'm going to use chips instead of the paper money that comes with the game. The players as a group they have the option of playing with either open or closed money and stock certificates. So decide on that as a group. I like to play with open money but hidden stock certificates, so no one's exactly sure who is the majority or minority shareholder at any time. Next, as part of setup, every player is going to draw one random tile and place it immediately on the board. Tiles always get placed in their exact location. There's a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of tiles and the spot for the tile. So all players will place one on the board. If you ever had a situation during this setup that you had 2 adjacent tiles, that's okay. Normally in the game that would form a corporation. As part of this setup round, that would not form a corporation until during one of the normal game turns, a player took the action to put another tile adjacent to those. What these setup tiles do, it will determine the playing order. So the player that's closest to the A row, in this case it's this player, will become the start player, and play always proceeds clockwise from that player. If there are 2 players tied for the highest row, then you see which player is closest to the 1 column. So if someone had the 1A, that would be closer than this tile. Finally, each player will draw 6 random tiles. This will form their starting hand of tiles, and these are always kept hidden from the other players. So to start the game, players are going to have their $60 and their 6 starting tiles, and we're ready to begin. So play always proceeds clockwise from the starting player. On a player's turn, they do 3 things in this order. The first thing they do is they have to place one of their tiles on the board in the spot. It's their choice. Next, they can buy up to 3 stocks in any corporations that are currently active on the board. And then finally, they draw 1 tile to get their hand back up to 6. So place a tile, buy up to 3 stocks, and draw a tile. That's a player's turn. Then play would proceed clockwise, and the next player would take those 3 actions. So let's take a look at each of those 3 steps of a player's turn in detail. So when a player places a tile, it can have one of 4 possible effects. They can select any of their tiles, and they place it in the matching spot on the board. The first thing that can happen is no effect. So unless a tile is orthogonally adjacent to another tile, nothing happens. Diagonal doesn't count. So by placing this tile, nothing happens. They can move on to the buy stocks in any active corporations To start the game, no corporations have been formed yet, so no stocks are eligible to be purchased. So they would go on to the third phase and then just draw a tile to get back up to 6. The next thing that could happen when a player places a tile is it could start a new corporation. So by placing this tile, as long as there are at least 2 orthogonally adjacent tiles, and this wasn't part of an existing corporation, then a company would get formed. The player has the choice, assuming there is an active corporation available to be placed on the board. They can select any one of those. They would place the company or the corporation marker, and as their bonus for starting a corporation, they immediately get 1 share in the corporation. Now, if this was later in the game and they placed that same tile, but there were no active or there were no corporations available to be placed, it would not be allowed to place that tile. This would be a temporarily unplayable tile that the player would have to keep in their hand since no corporations were available. If later a company got acquired and it got returned to the available corporations, then this tile could have been played and then we could have placed that there. Once the tile has been placed, then the player moves on to the buying stock certificates. Again, they can buy stock certificates in any active corporation, so I fast forwarded a bit. We have 2 active corporations here, so the player has the option. They can buy up to 3. They could buy 3 in 1, or they could mix and match it. They could buy 1 in this one, 1 in this one, and forfeit the 3rd share, or they could buy 2 in this one and 1 in this one. They can buy any mixture as long as the corporation is active on the board. These other companies that haven't been activated yet are ineligible to buy their shares. The price to buy a share is always based on how large the corporation is, meaning how many tiles are in the corporation. So when this corporation was started, I used this player track to update it to show this corporation was started, and it currently has 2 tiles in its corporation, so the value of its shares are 3. So any shares purchased will cost $3. For the Zeta Corporation, it also has 2 tiles, so it's the same size, but it's a lower value corporation. It only costs 2 to buy these shares. So you can see they're grouped here like I did in setup. The Zeta and the Saxon are in the same tier. You can see the shares go up in the same way. The next 3 are in the same value tier, and the final 2, Phoenix and Quantum, are higher value companies. Their shares are alike, but they're higher than the previous ones as it progresses and as they grow their company. So in this example, if I wanted to buy 2 shares of Hydra and 1 share of Zeta, it would be 3, 6, 8. So I'd pay 8 total to the bank, and I would get my 2 shares in Hydra and my 1 share in Zeta. Those come from these certificates. Once these are depleted, they're unable to be purchased, and these can be taken into the player's hand and concealed. The third outcome that can happen when placing your tile is the corporation can simply grow. So by placing this tile adjacent, this corporation has now grown from 2 to 3 tiles. So I'm going to adjust this on the track. They're now 3 tiles large, and you can see buying stock now costs 4 for each stock of Hydra. So every time the company grows, their stock value is actually growing along with it. But you can see there are noticeable jumps. So the first several growths in this company, or actually all the companies, their value goes up in increments. Here it'll stay steady until it makes another jump and the stock price increase, always based on the number of tiles in the corporation. One very important concept about the size of the company is once any corporation gets to 11 tiles in size or larger, they're considered safe. They can no longer be acquired by any other corporation. So let's talk about how companies get acquired and how mergers work. So that's the 4th outcome of a tile lay, is if the tile joins 2 different corporations by being orthogonally adjacent, an acquisition is going to take place. Whenever the adjoining tile is placed, you can turn it upside down for the time being, or maybe put a marker on it just to show that this is the adjoining tile. It won't be considered when evaluating how large the corporations are, because when two companies merge, only the largest company will survive. They will be the acquiring company. So it's always a good practice to double check to make sure you know the sizes of the corporations, to make sure your track's up to date. Here it's very simple. We can see the Hydra Corporation is larger. It has 3 tiles to the Zetas Corporation of 2 tiles. If they were of equal size, it was the player that actually placed the merging tile. They would decide who the surviving company would be. You could also have a situation where the placement of one tile actually merges 3 companies together or more. Always the largest company is going to survive. If there's a tie, the merging player decides, and then what you'll do is you'll resolve the next largest company that's going to become defunct. They're going to get resolved first for shareholder bonuses and defunct stock, and that's done in player turn order. This is a simpler one, so we only have 2 companies. So in player turn order, the first thing actually we're going to do is award bonuses for the majority owner and the minority owner of shares. So you're going to see which player has the highest number of shares. They're going to earn the majority bonus, which is always 10 times the current price of the defunct company. So since this company is getting acquired, it's the Zeta Corporation, so we'd see what the current price is. It's at 2. So whoever had the highest number of shares, it doesn't matter how many, as long as they own the most, they would get 2 times 10. They would get $20 from the bank. The minority owner, whoever had the second most, would get 5 times 2, or 10 from the bank. If there was ever a tie for the highest number of shares, both those players would split the majority bonus and the minority payout. We would add those together, and the 2 tied players for highest would simply split those. If there was a tie for the minority bonus, all the tied players would simply split the minority bonus. And in situations where there's only one player that holds shares in the company, they would actually get both bonuses. They would get the majority bonus and the minority bonus if they were the only shareholder in the company that went defunct. After you've awarded the majority and minority bonus, all players now that hold any shares in the company get to decide what to do with these defunct shares. They have 3 choices. This is decided in turn order. So the player that merged the company together, assuming they had stock in this merger, it's legal to merge 2 companies that you don't have any shares of. Let's assume they have shares. They decide first. The first thing they can do is decide to hold those shares. They wouldn't have any immediate value, but what they're doing is holding them in the anticipation or the expectation that this company will get formed later in the game, because this company is going to go back to the companies or the corporations that are available to be formed later in the board when 2 or more tiles get formed. So you can hold your stock in anticipation of the company getting formed later. Your second option is you could sell your shares at the current price before the merger happened. And the third option is you can trade your shares in at a 2-to-1 rate for shares in the surviving company. So if I had at least 2 shares in Zeta, for each of those 2 shares I could trade them in to get 1 share of Hydra. And you can do any combination of those 3 options. So if I had 4 shares, I could decide to trade 2 of them in for 1 of the surviving company. Maybe I'll hold on to 1, and the last one I'll sell. So you can do any combination of holding your shares, selling them at the current price, or trading them in 2-to-1 for shares of the surviving company. The decision of what to do with your shares, that's done in turn order. The reason why that's important is because maybe multiple players want to trade in for the shares, and they could run out before all players have the chance. So that could limit the options of players that are further in turn order. So you start with the player that merged the companies together, and then going clockwise around the table, players would make their decisions. Now, if a company, if the merger involved 3 or more companies, we'd resolve the largest acquired company first, and then you would go to the next largest acquired company, and then you'd pay those majority and minority bonuses, and then again in turn order, players would decide what to do with their defunct shares. And then finally, once you've completed the merger process, the acquired company or companies can go back. They can be formed later. We can remove the marker, and now Hydra is now a much larger corporation from the acquisition. They're always going to grow in size by the acquired companies in addition to the merging token. So we'd now update their size on the track and then reset Zeta back down to 0. So in this example, Hydra jumped up and has become a 6-tile corporation, which has increased their stock value. Now, we're still on the active player's turn, so once the whole merger process has completed, you'll remember they have the option now to buy up to 3 stocks of any active corporation in the game. But now you obviously have to abide by the current size of corporations and how much their shares are worth. So to recap, anytime a merger happens, you pay the shareholder bonuses for majority and minority shareholders, whoever has the most and second most, and then all players that hold shares get to make that decision between holding, selling, and trading in their stock, and that's done in turn order. One final point about the third phase of a turn, and that's drawing your 1 tile. If you ever have any permanently unplayable tiles, basically a permanently unplayable tile would be a tile that, if it played, it would join 2 safe companies. So a company, remember, is safe if the corporation has 11 tiles or more. So if by playing the tile, it would be illegal because you can't acquire a corporation once it's grown 11 or more, that is a permanently unplayable tile. At the end of your turn, before redrawing, you can declare that you have 1 or more permanently unplayable tiles. Those can get removed from the game, and then you can draw back up so you have 6 tiles in your hand at any time. The game will continue until at the end of a player's turn, they declare that one corporation has reached 41 or more tiles, or all corporations on the board are safe. They have 11 or more tiles. The reason why they have the option to declare it is because even though the condition may exist, they could decide to let the game extend if it's in their best interest. But once at the end of a player's turn, they've made that declaration, that will end the game. At game end, you'll award majority and minority shareholder payouts for every active corporation still on the board, and then all players will get the opportunity to sell all their remaining stock at the current price. All that money comes from the bank, and then the player with the most money is the winner of the game. If there's a tie, it's a shared win between the tied players. And that's everything you need to set up and play Acquire.